Good afternoon, all. CamelbackTrading.org coming to you this Friday afternoon, June 25th, and we are looking at Window Trader's market profile of SPY, IWM, and Triple Qs. A lot to get to today. We're going to recap all three of these indices charts. New highs this week in the ES, SPY, NQ, and Triple Qs. Very weird finish for IWM. I know they had a rebalancing today. M period really distorts the charts a lot, but boy, they went from a trend day up in L to absolutely giving it all back and having a small price probe to the downside in M period as they got to within about $1 of their all-time high. We said if Russell's going to go higher and make all-time highs, I think Triple Q, since they've been really opposite of each other for months, will probably trade sideways in balance or maybe even push a little lower. And that's kind of what happened most of the day until, look, Triple Qs ended basically with a B shape and they end 11 wide. Well, Russell was higher until, I guess, the rebalancing had something to do with this price going down. I would take that with a grain of salt. I wouldn't be surprised if we were right back up on Monday. Haven't traded these in a while. I've just been trading Triple Qs. I mean, it's been pretty quiet. Again, I did one really big trade in A period that made my day. I've done that 3 days in a row because the tempo and volume in SPY has been pretty poor. So I've been more aggressive on trades that I like early in the day. As far as SPY and ES, we gapped higher. We filled the gap in A, and that was what I'll get to that. That was my best trade of the day because when A opened, got above the opening, made a new high. I got to within about 10 cents of my overnight all-time high. Remember, I didn't get it because of the dividend. Once we got below the opening, I took 100 put play of the 427.50s that expired today and wrote it down to fill the gap and took the rest off right at that gap fill because, like I say a lot of times, that's what they get geared to. They're heat-seeking missiles. They fill the gap, and guess what? We never saw that level again. Actually took a long in B period when we were about to pop A's high. I got long the 424 calls, which paid me. Those are two nice trades. Now, after that, I did really nothing, and in fact, I lost on small on 3 trades in a row, which I don't like going out with 3 losses like that, but they were all very small. One was in B. We weren't getting tempo, so I was like, I'm going to take a short because I'm not sure if we're going to be able to go trend. Now, C opened, but before C opened, B started pushing high, and I took it off. I could have held it for a while because C opened, never took out B's high, and obviously filled the singles and went low. I would have made money on it. But I took it off for a small loss. I did that again in K period when K took out the day's high. I'm like, I want to see what kind of tempo or volume. Once L took out K's high, I took that off for a loss. Small. And then in M period, I actually took a small long saying this is basically my price spike, the base of it. If that gets filled, I'm out. It happened in M. Took that off even though we went back afterwards and probed. But that's okay. None of them were big. I wasn't about to go and give back my day or my week on anything big, on things that just weren't setting up the way I liked them to. We had a 93-cent range. We had the same exact range on the day until K period finally took out the high. Still a horrible range. Only $1.54. 56 million shares on the tape. Our average is 76 million. When we get to the charts, you'll see how light the volume was this week. I do think, and I said this last night, 3 days in a row now we've had POCs of 13, 11 in SPY. I know ES had 12 and 10 today. I think each and every time that the market has paused throughout the day that there's been probably, if not more than one, at least one of the big boys, some pension fund or something, probably selling very passively to these short-term day traders like us and algos, just lightening up on their position. Again, we got some distance away from the previous all-time high. ES got more because, again, the dividends playing into a factor with me. So that's what we do want to see. Volume is still horrendous, and we had 65 time frames. This, right? 65. Well, I can't count A from Monday. Or maybe you can't count any of the A's. But we did not get a pullback below a previous time frame's low of more than 30 cents the entire week. Now, is that impressive? It is. It would be more impressive if the volume and tempo to the upside were more. No, not one time did shorts attempt to push this market down when they took out a previous time frame's low. It's fascinating. I can't remember the last time I've seen that. So even though higher prices are definitely, yes, higher prices are definitely choking off volume, this market still is, monthly's up 8 months, daily's up for 5 days, one time framing up, and the weekly I'm putting balance to up. You could put it up. I'm putting balance to up for now. If we take out this week's high, I'll put it to up then on Monday. So destinations for Monday, one and only one on the upside. The weekly and all-time high of 427.09. Downside is a lot. We have the price probe, L's high of 426.96. I was hesitating on using B as the base of the price spike. Did it get violated or not? But I'm going to use it. 426.48. 10 wide at 426.31. D's high and K's low. 425.95. I pull back low. Today's low of 425.55. 11 wide from yesterday. 425.13. Yesterday's low, 424.62, filling the gap at 424.05, a 57-point gap. Then that perfect, that's a perfect POC. Yeah, I have to update these things. 423.37, perfect POC from the 23rd, and then 422.51 daily low. Now, let's get to the charts and break all of these down, all three indices. Let's start with the Russell. Russell is the only one out of our three indices that we followed that did not hit their all-time high this week. They're still in balance. They're firmly in a 4 or 5 month balance, 4 month balance, we'll call it. They're attempting to get to it. They got close, 234.53. And today they got to 233.64. So they got within $1 of their regular trading hours all-time high. They do have an overnight all-time high. So the monthly is still balance. Weekly, we went back and forth through that 228.10 level all week. Okay? But obviously closed way above it. I'm just looking at last week's high and this week's high. We barely took out last week's high. So technically you could treat this as an inside week. What does that mean? That means if we take it out to the upside, we should finally go and make new all-time highs in IWM. If we take it out to the downside, then we see if we hold the previous week's low, which isn't that far below this week's low, and for a 2-week balance. If not, then you can start getting more acceleration to the downside. So weekly is balance also. Monthly balance, weekly balance, daily is up. Daily is up one time, framing up 5 days. So that's what the Russell's looking like. Triple Qs. And remember, Russell and Qs go totally opposite. Triple Qs broke out of their monthly to the upside this month. So the monthly is up in triple Qs. So is the weekly. The weekly is one time framing up out of an inside week for 5 weeks. Very healthy. So monthly up, weekly up, daily finally came into balance. We filled yesterday's gap. It's a 2-day balance. I told you if the Russell is going to go to its all-time highs, the way these two disconnect, I think triple Qs are going to either balance, trade sideways, or maybe even push a little lower while that's happening. So keep that in mind. And then let's go to the ES and the SPY. 3 days to go in the month. We have the end of the month, quarter, and half year on Wednesday. 8 months, one time framing up. Just continually to amaze. Weekly. Slightly took out last week's high. Last week's high is 425.46. We took it out by $1.50. We close above it by a little bit over $1. Again, it's an art, not a science. Do you want to call the weekly up? Be my guest. For now, I'm calling it balance to up. If we take out this week's high early next week, I will call it up. And the outside week down was an utter failure of epic proportions. And by the way, this week's volume, just under 281 million. Last week, when the market pushed down, 383 million. So look at that, 100 million shares less. Do you see the difference as opposed to when the market attempts to go down to when it goes up? That's an issue at some point. And then on the daily, very healthy, one time framing up 5 days. They filled today's gap, but they have the gap from the other day. They held the trend days from the other day. Yes, there's some poor structure below. Yes, we have not had any liquidation break at all. But if we do take out this week's high fairly early next week and start getting distance away, this poor structure is going to hold for a while. If at some point we can't get any higher, well then once we finally stop the one-time framing up in the daily, we can get a cascade of sellers to at least wipe out a bunch of week longs and get a new batch of short sellers into the market, because they were not there all week for the first time in a while. We had a great week in CamelbackTrading.org's voice channel room. Come check us out. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll speak prior to the opening on Monday.